Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Jaipur Marketeer Group's Interaction Studio Bootcamp session number 1. Today, Abhishek and Manisha are going to walk us through some key concepts of Interaction Studio as well as demo those features live. But before that, a big thank you to all of you for taking time out on a busy Friday and dedicating 1 hour to your learning and development. We hope that from today's sessions, you will acquire some good understanding of the Interaction Studio, which is a real-time personalization service offering from Salesforce. So thank you for being with us on this Friday today. A quick overview about this group. This group is known as Salesforce Marketeer Group in the Salesforce ecosystem. I and Vikas are leading this group for now. The group's Twitter handle is @Jaipur Marketeers, in case if you would like to interact with us. And the LinkedIn and YouTube, both channels are with the name Salesforce Jaipur Marketeers. We publish all our content on YouTube, all our recordings, and all our contests go out on Twitter and LinkedIn for all the events. So leading up to the events contest, and in some cases after the event contest as well, where we try to engage and collaborate with our Trailblazer community. And in the process, we also have, I think, 6 vouchers that we receive for every event that we would like to give away as part of those contests. So if you want to win a voucher, or even otherwise, if you would like to share your opinions and views on certain topics, you may want to follow us on these channels. Mission. Our mission is pretty simple and twofold. Our first mission of this group, or starting this group, is to develop local talent, which means that we will be giving a lot of opportunities. And if I have to put it in a metric, probably 90% of our sessions will be presented by someone from the local community trailblazing group. We would like to give them a platform where they can come, present their knowledge, practice, and use this platform for their presentation and articulation skills. And in the process, we develop the local talent. And our second fold mission is to help build digital skill sets. So in this era of pandemic, as well as in the era of post-pandemic that is about to be upon us, hopefully, digital skill sets are going to be an essential skill sets for all the trailblazers to acquire. So we hope by providing this platform, we can incubate some of those digital skill sets. So this is our group's mission. A little bit about myself. Name is Anil Plania. I'm leading this group for now. My email address, Twitter handle, and LinkedIn details are on the screen. And Vikas is our co-group leader. He is helping me run this group for now. His email address and Twitter handle and LinkedIn page details are on the screen. We ran 2 contests leading up to this bootcamp session. In one of our contests, we asked a very simple open-ended question to all our community members, where we just wanted to know what the personalization really mean to them. We were not exactly looking for the formal definition of personalization. We were more looking for individuals' definition of personalization, and we received amazing responses. I think there were some 80 or 90 participants who participated in this contest. And we liked Kanika Singhal's response the most, because in addition to just being generic personalization definition, she put forth her own take on the personalization. So Kanika, if you are with us today, many, many congratulations for winning this contest. The second contest that we ran leading up to this group was, again, a very open-ended and a debatable topic, where we wanted to know, according to you, who is best suited to drive future customer engagement, human intelligence or artificial intelligence, or both, or neither. And again, the responses were overwhelming. A lot of people had strong opinions about one or the other, and then some people came up with an idea of how both can go hand in hand. There is no right or wrong answers to these open-ended contest, but we liked Shruti's answer the best, where I think, and if I recall correctly, she mentioned that AI is going to be at the heart of everything, but unless we put a human touch to all the insights that artificial intelligence and the technology will provide, the customer engagement will not be as effective. So Shruti, again, if you are with us today, many congratulations for winning this Salesforce voucher, and thank you for participating. With that, I'm going to quickly introduce our presenters for today, who are going to walk us through the session 1 of this bootcamp. Abhishek Parikh and Manisha Janwani. Abhishek is the Marketing Cloud Practice Lead, and Manisha is a Salesforce consultant. Both of them have been working on Interaction Studio programs for quite some time, and today they will be walking us all through what Interaction Studio is all about and the high-level features of this. So with that, Abhishek, I will hand it over to you. Okay, I'll stop sharing. I'll switch off my video. Can you share your screen?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Perfect. So I'll start sharing my screen now.
Yes, your screen is visible and is in presentation mode. Over to you, Abhishek.
Perfect. Thanks for the warm welcome, Anil. So today I and Manisha will be starting with an introductory session to this Interaction Studio platform, which is one of the recent additions in Salesforce services. But before we do that, I would like your contribution or participation in a small activity. I hope you all are doing great in this pandemic. I need your participation in an activity which relates to how you have spent time in last 1 year during your work from home and how your habits have changed during that 1+ year. So just pick one of the habits which you have built or instilled in your daily routine in last 15 months or so, which you found pretty positive for yourself. Why I want this is again from that particular saying that sharing is caring. So maybe your habit which affected you in a positive way can be picked by your fellow community members, and they can also reap benefits from those habits. So and how we'll do it, you just need to drop that description of that activity or a one-liner of that habit or activity in the chat window, and our fellow community trailblazers can take a look at that and pick one of those if they find it useful or interesting for them. We will not be spending any time waiting here in the presentation, but yeah, we will be monitoring it through chat. So with that, I'll start my presentation on Interaction Studio. But before we get into Interaction Studio, I want to touch upon a concept which Interaction Studio, tracks or facilitates. So that concept is personalization, and you must be wondering that what all this talk about personalization. Why do we even have to personalize? What benefits personalization gives you as an audience or brand, as a business? So the simple one-liner answer is everyone wants to be treated uniquely, and that's why personalization is important for marketing campaigns. Now, the benefits from personalized experience is, for brands, it is timely and relevant engagement for their consumers all the time. The silos and disconnected channel experience is not observed when you do that personalized campaigning across channels. And even marketers across the world or research across the world back are this particular thing. So 84% of the consumers like being treated as an individual person with their individual affinities and not as a number or as a generic customer. And brands recognize that. So 89% of the brands are investing in digital capabilities for personalization. And what that brings to the table for those brands is revenue growth. And that number, when I looked at it for the first time, it looked a huge number to me. So 35% of revenue growth is tied when a customer receives ads basis on their activity on a particular site they are browsing. And this is why personalization becomes important. So I will start with how marketing campaigns were run a few years back, and then how those are evolving and what is the future need for those marketing campaigns. So the personalization process, as I already said, is what is really needed at the moment. But before that, let's how marketing campaigns started back in the day. So in the beginning, everything was not customer centric, it was campaign centric. So or brand centric, as you would say that. So let's take an example of maybe Nike, that they are introducing, new categories of product. So you used to get emails or notifications for whatever they are launching, whether you're interested in running shoes or not, they did not care, or whether you were interested in a particular kind of outfit, they were not really tracking all of that. So every customer or consumer used to get a generic communication on their campaigns, or you were targeted using a generic campaigns. So that's what it was back then. Things evolved, and now it is more of audience centric. And what that means is that a basic level of segmentation is done based on certain attributes. It could be your geolocation, it could be your age or gender. So those basic attributes are taken, and basis that segmentation, that particular similar, now that needs to change and become individual centric. And that's where this interaction studio will play its part. And I am going to explain that how this personalization process actually works and how interaction studio enables that in the next slide. So the process has three core components. The first one is to listen to consumers. You want to listen to your consumers of all the channels you are interacting web, where you can track their behavior on your websites, or in mobile, where you may want to see that how they are interacting with your mobile app, or your CRM, where you may want to see that what kind of cases they are logging, must they, or you may want to track their engagement. Then once you do that, then you, as a marketer, you need to act, and you need to act on all those channels. You need to provide personalizations, recommendations, or a push notification, or delivering insights in CRM, personalize their entire journey on email campaign. Now this is how, in general, this personalization process works. In Interaction Studio, there are few components which enable you during your journey as a marketer. First one, in order to listen, there are components, and these components are catalog and sitemaps. So catalog is basically a collection of objects which is relevant to your brand's business use case. You want to build that catalog, I'll be touching upon it later in a bit more detail, but you want to build a catalog with item types and certain attributes to reflect what you need as a business to drive your personalized campaigns. Then how the data is collected is through sitemap. So sitemap is one most prominent way in Interaction Studio through which you can record interactions using specific areas which are called specific page types or which are defined targeted areas for personalized campaigns in real time. Now, when you listen to your customer using these two components, step you want to do is to understand and decide what you want to do with that data which you collected. And there, the first thing you want to do on interaction using Interaction Studio is to identify. You want to identify a user, whether that user is a new user, an anonymous user, or an existing user who is coming back to your website. And Interaction Studio does that using identity attributes, which I'll again explain in a little detail later. Now, that data, you may want to use machine learning capabilities of Salesforce platform. So those capabilities are kicked in using Einstein recipes. And can you pause recording for a minute? Are you getting a lot of background noise?
There is some background noise.
Yeah, can you pause it and give me a second?
Sorry about that, everyone. Just bear with us for 30 seconds or so.
So meanwhile, Abhishek is back. Guys, I just want to say I honestly, personally, really excited about Interaction Studio. This is and will gonna be the next very, very niche skill in the domain of marketing automations. And I recommend this to every marketer and every Salesforce consultant to get a grasp on this, because this will gonna be huge in the domain of digital marketing. Yeah. All right. So looks like Abhishek is back. Hey, Abhishek.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, I'm back. Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, Abhishek.
Perfect. I think Anil, we can start recording again.
You are on, Abhishek.
Okay, perfect. So I was talking about identification, that Interaction Studio kicks in that process of identification, whether there is an anonymous user who is coming to your website or someone who is coming back to your website, and then stitches that identity for that anonymous user and the known user. And then you can use Einstein recipes, which is a collection of AI algorithms, business rules, which we'll be covering sometime in our later. Now, your customer, you understood what they want and decided that how you want to target that content to them. You need ways to target that personalized campaign, and that's where you need to act through templates and campaigns using Interaction Studio. So templates is a development. Some knowledge is required by developer to design. These templates define what a campaign is. Few examples could be, you may want under a, or you may want to render a product recommendation on your website, and how it is in campaigns, which is a business configurable personalization setup, which is done by your business users on Interaction Studio for different experiences based on your affinities as a user. And important thing is these campaigns can be created across channels. Like you can create web campaigns and you can also create server-side campaigns. Know that how this works and how Interaction Studio does that. I'll touch upon briefly on Interaction Studio benefits. So benefits brands which are predominant, that how it drives value during a customer life cycle. On the first side of the funnel, your whole interaction with a particular consumer starts, and by your I mean a brand's whole interaction starts with a customer from the awareness phase, where you want to make your consumers aware of your brand, the capabilities your brand has, the capability your brand's product has, and then later move to the engagement and acquisition phase. When you acquire a customer, now you want to keep that customer. How do you do that? Is by providing them excellent personalized support experience, so that they start becoming happy with you, and more products from your brand, where you get that opportunity to cross sell and upsell your new products. And your ultimate goal as a marketer is to make that customer a loyal advocate of your brand by making them happy with your products and services. Now that you understand the personalization process and Interaction Studio benefits, I'll be touching upon the process of real-time pipeline through which Interaction Studio captures all this detail. So here, if you look at it, this diagram looks very complex, but I hope in 2 minutes you will make most of the sense of this diagram. So how, and I'm taking a specific example for browser right now for your website, but this pipeline works for server-side events as well for external systems. So how it typically works, that on your browser, you will be installing an extension called Evergage Launcher and defining your sitemap and campaign templates. Once you define all of that setup, then if, let's say, you have installed this beacon in Evergage Launcher, defined your sitemap and defined your campaign templates, then users started coming to your website. And a user coming is an event. We'll call it an event. So, and then when that event occurs, this event goes to the Interaction Studio pipeline, where Interaction Studio starts looking at what event has occurred. Then they start doing that stitching of or unification of that profile, that whether that's an anonymous user or a known user, and that date identification for that user is done using identity attributes. After that is done, then that user, there are certain segmentation rules in Interaction Studio which run, and they categorize whether that customer is part of one or many custom segments. After this entire process is done, you have that data of customer in your user profile store. And after collecting all of that data, now the second part of this whole process starts, and it starts with the machine learning capabilities of Salesforce, where those Einstein recipes, which I just explained, are used for creating the content which is based on past behavior and driven by AI for creating the content which are best suited for a particular customer. And that content is then used within those templates and campaigns, and the real-time personalization experience is served to a particular customer. So that's how it works in real time through this pipeline. Now you know that how it works. I'll touch upon what kind of data is tracked or collected by Interaction Studio. So Interaction Studio collects deep behavioral data, and it does that on many levels. First one is on the identity level. So if you look at it, Interaction Studio collects data or tracks data even for anonymous users based on the device ID. And then you can use certain attributes like emails, IDs, or phone numbers through which that identity is tracked. Then the next thing you can track is different attributes. That those attributes could be firmographic or geographic, or based on the subscription you have done on an email or any other channel. The next step is to record all the transactions, like how many downloads are done for a particular white paper from your website, or how many signups or enrollments are done for particular campaigns or activities. And the ultimate goal as a brand is to convert every consumer for making a purchase. So that is also track the dollar value of all the purchases done by a customer on your website. And so these are high level things which are captured, but apart from that, Interaction Studio captures every behavior action on the website which a consumer is making. Like they capture clicks, they capture time spent on the website, and they also capture other activities outside of website, like how you are engaging with call center, and then that data can be consumed using server side campaigns in Interaction Studio. Now that you know all of that, I'll touch upon that how it is enabled within Interaction Studio, how we can track all of that data. And I think that's the question even you will be having in your mind right now. So before getting into that, I just want to call out that Interaction Studio is hosted in AWS. For the data model for Interaction Studio is hosted in AWS. It is an object-based, non-relational database which is built on top of MongoDB, and it is used to create the shadow catalog. Few important and three basically core components for this data model are item types, attributes, and dimensions. So item types, and I'll explain it with an example for financial services. So if you look at it, item types could be those business objects which are relevant for your use case. And there are three out of the box, three item types available in Interaction Studio. Those are products, blogs, and articles. And these item types differ in according to your use case. Like if you talk about maybe financial services or e-commerce, your product is one of the most important item types for you. But if you talk about demand generation sites or demand generation side of the business, products may not be that important item type for you. So product is one of the most, in our example for financial services, products is one of the important item types. The second one could be blogs, which you are reading, right? And then attributes, then we have to define attributes for those item types. Attributes are simple properties which give you more insight about a particular item type. Like for products, item types could be inventory or margins, which may not be the item, which may not be the properties for a blog. For a blog, you may have that as published date. And then we come to dimension, which are special kind of attributes, not attributes, special kind of contextual characteristic Interaction Studio. So it defines your relationship between different item types. And then based on that, you can build affinity towards different products or different, yeah. I mean, affinity for a particular customer is built based on these shared dimensions. And then these dimensions can also be used in those machine learning, decisioning, and other segmentations as well. So that's how dimensions differ a little bit from attributes, because they can be shared across different item types. And those examples could be, type or a gender. And how do you use that in Interaction Studio? That could be maybe there is a type or a category which is dimension, and if you are reading blog for one of the financial services product, then you start getting product recommendations for that product. So this is how dimensions play a critical role in this category building. One other thing which you should take care while designing your catalog is comply to those catalog design principles. There are 4 principles, and which are pretty simple, but we need to take care of those principles when we start building a catalog, however small our first use case or first step in Interaction Studio is. So the first one is your catalog should have relevant attributes, so that you get that data. The second part of the picture, that you only collect data in shadow catalog which is actionable through those relevant attributes or dimensions. And the third aspect of that is, you always it is always going to happen that you'll start on Interaction Studio with a single or a couple of use cases, and so you'll always take that crawl run approach. So first you will take 2 or 3 use cases, then you may want to scale it up, and that's where third important principle comes in, that from day one you should start building your catalog model in a way that is scalable for the future. How many more products or use cases you want or sites you want to build there, your model should be scalable. And the last one is this system. So I think it does a very good job at that. About these key components about catalogs, I'll move that how these catalogs are important for building customer affinity or customer profile where we track their affinity. So the whole purpose of this design is to build that shadow catalog which builds the user affinity based on their past behaviors on websites and other channels. And if you look at it, how that data is collected is through these. If you look at this affinity wheel, this gives you a good idea about that let's say someone is on your website and they like a certain color more, or they like certain brands more on your website, or products more on your website. So that data is collected, and then this affinity wheel is created basis that the whole user interaction. And the important matrices which Interaction Studio tracks, these two, the last two, add to cart and favorite one, are specific to, I think, e-commerce use case, but these 3 are pretty important ones, and you see that in affinity wheel as well. So it captures data around the views on your website, that which page was viewed, where customer has navigated on your website when they were interacting with your website, then how much time they spent. And to me, this is a very critical metric which is often overlooked. But if you think about it logically, the first thing someone comes in and do on website is to browse through that website, and if they find an article useful or a piece interesting, they start spending time there. So Interaction Studio records the time spent on your website, and then that can be used for running campaigns as well. Like let's say someone spent 10 minutes or 15 minutes looking at a particular article which was related to certain industry or certain product. So then you may want to send them a personalized campaign based on their interest. And after these two, the most important metric, which is the conversion metric, that what was the dollar value of the purchases made by customer on your website. And as I said, this add to cart and favorite could be other matrices which you may want to track for your e-commerce use case. You have heard me talking a lot about identity attributes, so I just want to touch upon that what identity attribute is and what role it plays in Interaction Studio to stitch user profiles. So if you look at it, identity attributes are way of defining user profiles, and there are out of the box standard attributes available in Salesforce, which within Interaction Studio, which they provide. So this could be email or contact key or CRM ID. Now, how that works, that when an event or interaction happens on any channel, be it your web channel, website, or on your external channels, that event is recognized by Interaction Studio. Then Interaction Studio looks for the data in that event. So in first example, if you look at it, let's say someone has come to your website, and through that event, they are providing you data in terms of their email address and customer ID. Interaction Studio goes back and looks at, tries to find that data. And if, let's say, they're finding 2 user profiles for that data. So for email address, they found one profile where they also were captured, which is already attached to that existing user. And there is a second existing user where the only customer ID data is present. So Interaction Studio merges that data basis on this email address on website channel, and the resulting user will have these 3 attributes combined together. Similarly, let's say that event happens on another channel wherein you receive that email address and customer ID, and you again, Interaction Studio looks at their data store, sees that email address and phone number is present in a profile, and on another profile, email address and customer ID is present. Now, if you look at it, though both profiles have email ID, but it retains the email ID we just received. So it retains the latest data. And this is true even for existing data as well. Like for an example, let's take that you also have this phone number present in both these profiles rather than one. Then Interaction Studio will retain the phone number with latest timestamp and reject the other one. So this is how this identity attributes work to identify a particular user on Interaction Studio. Now, I think I covered everything related to how you need to build your data model, catalogs. I will just touch upon how you collect the data. So you, as an implementation guy for Interaction Studio, will want to integrate your Interaction Studio web SDK on your website, and we call it beacon. So how it happens is that Manisha will be anyway walking us through that how you can install that beacon. But typically this JavaScript file has first party cookies, and which really collects all the behavioral data. Then it feeds that data back to Interaction Studio in real time. And in real time itself, using that data, you can run your personalized campaigns. So this is how this entire process works after you install that beacon, and how beacon collects and updates that data to power your personalized campaigns in real time. Now, there are 2 types of beacons. One is synchronous and the other one is asynchronous. So the synchronous one is recommended by Salesforce, and the difference between these 2 is the synchronous beacon loads before your web page loads on the website. So there is a smooth experience and no flicker. They call it zero flicker experience. And then asynchronous one loads in parallel to your web page DOM. So there you might experience some flicker. I hope I was able to give you a good overview into Interaction Studio. So now I'll hand over to Manisha, who will be showing us demo for everything I talked about.
Thank you, Abhishek.
Over to you, Manisha.
Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen. Let me know once it is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Manisha.
Yes.
Are you able to
We can see the Marketing Cloud screen.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So now let's take a deep dive inside Interaction Studio, where it resides and how can we implement it for our clients. That Interaction Studio enhances Marketing Cloud capabilities with expanded personalization. So this is my Marketing Cloud org, and assuming that I'm Marketing Cloud, I want to provide a set of users with Interaction Studio access. So I will navigate to setup. So So on my left hand side, you can see a tab as users. You can go to users. So what we are doing is from Marketing Cloud, I'm giving Interaction Studio access. Any user and go to manage roles. Now I'll go to edit permissions. So there are a set of permissions. We need which particular permissions is required for Interaction Studio. As you can see, Interaction Studio lies here and it is already checked for my user. You can give access to a number of users and click on save. So Interaction Studio permission to my user. So with Marketing Cloud, will Interaction be there? So the answer is no. It has to separately purchase Interaction Studio license. So with different sub tabs that are available with Marketing Cloud, we'll move to Interaction. So now as we are navigating to Interaction Studio, so it's just taking a minute. Yeah. So previously I was in Marketing Cloud main page and Interaction Studio permissions. Now I want to identify or I want to have different roles for my users to play in my Interaction Studio org. So how can I change the set of permissions inside Interaction Studio? So go to securities and go to manage users. You see that there is a list of users access that was given via Marketing Cloud. I'll take a user. So you can see that username, email address, account permission, admin permission is checked. So what does this mean? It has complete access on Interaction Studio, all possible actions in Interaction Studio. But it's wherein I want John to perform various roles in my different data sets. Now, what is data set? We'll come to that in a minute. So I can go ahead and roles to John in different data sets. So where does these role come from? So I can assign more than one and so on. Custom roles. So where does this come from? You security, go to manage roles. So Salesforce provides a set of roles which you can use. So like the role campaign author has full access on campaign, someone templates and so on. And in my business use case, I want to provide only a specific permission to my, go ahead and create a custom role. And let's say I just want, I can check this box up and enter the role name and this role can be assigned on different data sets. Now coming back, what is data set? Acts as a business entity or a business module where your business resides. I have a site called ntu.com and today we want to track activities inside ntu.com. So I'll go ahead and create a data set. Why I'm not using an existing data set? Because every data set has a different business context. And create a data set. Now ntu.com maybe is dealing with ntu.uk or various domains. So do we need one data set or do we need multiple data sets? So the answer is, let's say in ntu.com, ntu.uk, we have same set of audiences. So if we have same set of audiences in these three, we want to track them. That a user who is in ntu.com is interested towards, let's say, jacket, but the same user in ntu.uk is interested towards a pair of shoes. So in this scenario, I may need to create different data sets. But by Salesforce is that we should start with one data set. If it is not able to cover all the scenarios, we should go ahead and create multiple data sets. So, and what if, just one more thing here, in ntu.com, let's say I am a user in ntu.com and the set of audience in ntu.uk is entirely different from the users in ntu.com. In those particular scenarios, we can just create the combination of audience is entirely different and is not inclusive. So where can we create data set from? You can go ahead and click on create data set. Enter a unique identifier and a name for a data set. We do have many data set already created, so I'm not creating one. We have empty data sets as well, which we'll just walk through in a minute. So let's go back. So I think by now we understand that a data set has a mapping with So you can see that there are a number of data sets that are present in my Interaction Studio org, and each of them has a different business perspective. And there is no data sharing between the data sets. User segments, they have different users, different segments, account segments, different catalogs. So if you want to create two data sets for a business, in that case, you have to create segments, catalogs separately in each of them. Now, let's see how a user is identified different data sets. For demo purpose, I have selected a user. So dataset called ISRCH. So here in all users, we have this user as Ruchi. And observe what are the behaviors of Ruchi. You can see that this user visited my site first time on 12th of January and last time on 4th June. And this is the affinity of the user, that the user is buying cycles. And this wheel Abhishek was talking about, that by this wheel we can track users' affinity. Let's say by views. So by that, Ruchi is more inclined towards buying sweatshirts and has different affinities toward different colors. And same goes for watch time and purchases. So as currently there are no purchases made, it shows black. Now the same user may have a different. When we talk about data set, again, I'm talking about a business context. Now let's go. Yeah. So we have a same user called Ruchi in my data set. And here Ruchi with the business. She's not in any of the offerings of data set that is attached to a business. Gym business. So she's not inclined. Now moving back. Yeah. So you see that user details are captured inside Interaction Studio. There are various attributes. There are various identity attributes and various details that Ruchi shared. Now let's quickly see what is dashboard and how it looks like. So you can see that as other dashboards in Interaction Studio, the dashboards look that are provided by Salesforce. So in dashboards, you can see that what are the campaigns for this data set, what were the different top campaigns, different web campaigns, how many visits were there, are there any returning visitors, or how many new visitors are visiting my site, and so on. Now we know that a data set keeps track of a business, but how this data set is related to my business and how my business is sending data back to my data set. My personal data set. Yeah. You can move to web and then to web integration. So what currently we are doing is that how my site will be sending data back to Interaction Studio. JavaScript integration, as you see. So this is a web SDK provided by Interaction Studio, wherein you can embed this beacon in client script, and the client script will load this beacon and the Interaction Studio will be attached to that. So this particular piece of code is provided. Go ahead and embed this in their script. So whenever the page loads, the script is executed. So where should the script be placed? So it is recommended that you place the script in the header so that we have better and quicker. As Abhishek already suggested, a synchronous beacon and an asynchronous beacon. So what's the difference? Synchronous beacon offers zero flicker experience. That is, when I visit my website and let's say I'm a returning user, and according to my requirements, the user should be shown with the categories he or she is most interested in. So with zero flicker experience on the page load, the user will be shown the category. But we have one more type, that is asynchronous. The asynchronous beacon gives a little flickery experience. So why are we using it and when it is used? So assume that there is a business use case wherein my site is getting data from some third-party integrations, and that data also I want to send in my interaction studio. So when the data is load or is coming in parallel to the page, asynchronous beacon. So it is recommended that you use, in cases like you are using Google Tag Manager, wherein the data comes after the page load or parallelly to the page load, we should use asynchronous beacon because we do not have any other. Give just a few fractions, show by category and then show by category, let's say Manisha. And that is what a beacon is. But once my data set is ready, I'll be code to my clients to embed in their script. But before that, I need to test that it is behaving. And so for that, we have an extension called extension for Chrome. Yeah. So this is a visual editor that track any domain for Interaction Studio. So I already have it in place. That ntio.com should send data back. So there are two parts of the extension, account and a data set. So where can we get these two? So if you observe this closely, after beacon we have account and that we have a data set name as account for us and this as a data set for us. Yeah. So I'll go here. I'll go to again. It was through cookies. It was already present. So, so we have successfully installed the beacon. How to see that the beacon is there in? You can go to console. Try typing window.everreach. Yeah, so you see that there is attached with window.everreach. So the beacon is successfully installed via the extension SDK, and you can see that account and the dataset appear here. Second. So I am inclined towards buying a sweatshirt and like white more and a pair of shoes and so on and so forth. So these interactions will be sent to Interaction Studio via the beacon. Will be provided to our clients. They can embed this beacon in their script and it will be sending data back to Interaction Studio. So we just saw that there is a dashboard which shows what are the top campaigns, what are click-through, is interacting with the site and so on. Now we have one more report of type event stream. So you just before I was performing some actions on my website and these are getting tracked here. I came to the homepage. I went in the sweatshirt section. Then I liked some sweatshirt and so on. So if you see it closely, event details stores the user URL that the user clicked on, the IP of the user, and the browser, and so on. So Interaction Studio is a beacon installed. So I think by now it is clear that how Interaction Studio from your website. We saw last visited at this particular time and clicked on this URL. So by this, you can build the affinities of the user, that what kind of things the user is, and according to that. Now, yeah, this user which first visited my site on May 23, last visited today, and the user was interested in a white hoodie, a white sweatshirt, and a pair of shoes. So this is how data is sent to Interaction Studio, and this is how it is tracked, that the user is more inclined towards sweatshirts. There are a pair of actions that we can create, affinity track, and if you go into users and create various user segments, let's say I create, if there is a user who is spending more than 5 minutes on my website, we'll be touching these in the next sessions, but give you an idea that I may create a user segment, and in which I can track that the user visit count may be visited 5 times in a day. Different segments of users and different users. So I think by now we know that how data is sent to Interaction Studio. Let's go back into an empty data set for our sessions as well. Yeah. So this data set is freshly created and has recent visitors, has no event streams. So now, as I already said, that we are dealing with the business of e-commerce site, and we want to start our data set number 21 and deal with NTO.com. First thing first, we created a data set, assuming that NTO.com deals in one particular domain, track no overlapping users, even if they have different domains. Now let's go to catalogs. That what are catalogs and why they are needed, as Abhishek already some more insights. So people with e-commerce background would be knowing what is a catalog, maybe catalog for products, catalogs for promotion, and so on. So catalog is more business context, which aligns and KPIs. So if you see, catalog comprises of different item types. Salesforce. So, and Abhishek also said that there are a type of rules that we need to follow while that your catalogs should align with your business. So when an e-commerce site, first is the item type should be a product. And to make it more clear, relational table background can understand these item types as 5 different tables that are attached to my data set number 21. So here I'm using product as my table. So as you can see that this particular name, you cannot edit it. So there are 5 out of box present, but you can surely change the label and add some description according to your business needs. Now coming to attributes and dimensions. What are these and why? Do you think product is a table? Attributes and dimension columns to your table. That how, what will be the identifier of a product? So when a product table comes in my mind, the first attribute I think of is maybe product ID. That there's one attribute that should store my product ID. I can name it as product ID. Okay. And the type can be, make it string, even if it comes in integer format, we'll treat string and integer as same here. So I created an attribute. I may like to create more attributes and some. If we have both of them as column to my table, what is the difference between an attribute and a dimension? So a dimension attributes you can think of as the columns which help us uniquely identify a row, whereas dimension you can think as the columns that are common between some tables. So let's say I have product and blog post enabled for my business. I'll enable product for say I have let's say product also enabled for my business. I'm not in next session we may have a wherein we may want to change some attributes of the blog post. So we are just editing product for now. From where we will add dimensions. So you can go here. Now, what can be the dimensions that can be shared across my different item types? So I'm just, as a product can be inclined towards a gender, that it can be a women or a men product. Similarly, assuming that a blog post will be men specific or women specific. So we can create a dimension called gender here. So you can see that here is cardinality, one per item, many per item, one per SKU. As obviously, we'll keep it one for one. Any dimension you can think of which is many per item. So yeah, maybe colors. So if I have a dimension of type, I may have different colors for my one product. So I can add different dimensions from that area and attach. So now we have covered catalogs are necessary and we can configure catalogs. We can create different attributes. We can create different dimensions. One more thing, yeah. We had a user wherein we were tracking user. So from where the user details is coming from the site we have installed the beacon on. But what if I attributes of a user and according to my use case, the user has distinct identity types on different websites. So just to make, let's go to identity already present. So these are a set of identity type that are already provided by Salesforce that for a particular, for users, you can use these as identity. For user, a attribute can be address. So email address can act in my Interaction Studio org. We can create according to our requirement and are they case sensitive or they are not. Where these identity types are used, so these, as I already said, are inclined towards user, that how user is defined in your. So here reside the user attributes, that is on settings, we go to attributes, and these, as you can see, are user attributes. So we already have provided by Salesforce is and is tightly bound with email address identity type. So you can change the existing one. Let's say not a yeah. Let's say for business you instead of the primary email address, I can easily do that. What if I need some other attribute? To let's say I created an external ID in my identity type. I want to bind it with a new user attributes. I can easily go ahead and create external ID here. And when we have this pick list identity type as external ID there, we can easily assign ID identity type. So where this is used again to identify a user uniquely. So how can we set this up for a data set? So for one data set, a unique identifier can be an email address, and for some other data set, it could be something else. So we have email address identifier. I'll go to settings, to general setups, and then to advanced options. So you can see if you scroll down, here we have select identity attribute to use in your web SDK. That is which attribute, user attribute you think is definition. We can select any of those. Same goes for mobile app and same goes for if we have any third-party integration. which particular attribute you think is unique when it is entering Interaction Studio. Okay, I think we are good for today and we have covered. So just a little summary. I think by now we understand why personalization is important and where does Interaction Studio reside, and why do we really need catalog navigate inside Interaction Studio. So in the upcoming session, we will have different sessions around a sitemap, a segments, etc. A content zone, just to make it a little more exciting the next time you come. So shop by category, I said that for my business, that next time whenever I visit my website, this should just show me either 2 or 3 items that the last time I visited. So this is session through sitemap and campaigns and templates that we'll be creating. Okay, so as an attendee, many of you would have a doubt in mind that is it for developers or is it for admin? So yeah, if admin, there is a lot of scope to understand the business requirement, design catalog, understand how user segments are created. There are different AI capabilities you can work on, create surveys, create. As a developer, we have JavaScript for you. We have a entirely created in JavaScript. We'll be showing that in the next session. So yeah, I think Interaction Studio is for both of them. If you find it interesting, it is a great platform to get your hands on. So that's all from my end. I'll stop sharing, Abhishek. Back to you.
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you, Abhishek. Is there anything else that you want to cover, or we're good to wrap up our session?
Good to wrap.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, we are a few minutes over our time, so we'll just quickly wrap up. So thank you, everyone. I hope you got some good insights into what Interaction Studio is at a high level, and you get very good understanding of some of the high-level initial features that Manisha just demonstrated. Thank you so much, Abhishek and Manisha, for taking time out and giving us this opportunity to get ourselves introduced to the world of Interaction Studio. Everyone will have 3 more follow-up sessions for this bootcamp, because one session is never going to be enough to cover the entire Interaction Studio landscape. There is a lot of nitty-gritty details and complexity behind the scene in order to achieve this real-time personalization. So please do RSVP for the second event, which will take place next Friday, same time, and we'll have a different set of speakers coming in and covering certain areas of Interaction Studio. So we'll see you next week. And until then, thank you. Stay safe, be at home, and put masks whenever you are going out. And we'll talk to you all soon next week. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.